The arrogant empire. The Silurian Empire stretched across 17 star systems, their technological prowess unmatched in this arm of the galaxy. For 8 centuries, they had conquered and assimilated dozens of civilizations, integrating useful technologies and subjugating resistant species. Their warships resembled massive crystalline structures, propelled by dark energy drives that allowed them to traverse vast distances without conventional fuel. The Empire's soldiers were enhanced with biotechnology, their natural forms augmented with metal and synthetic tissue that made them nearly invulnerable to primitive weapons. High Admiral Vexus stood on the command bridge of the Inevitable Dominion, flagship of the Silurian fleet. Her translucent skin shimmered with bioluminescent patterns that indicated her elevated rank. Behind her, officers monitored endless streams of data, their eyes augmented with implants that allowed them to process information at superhuman speeds. "High Admiral," said her second-in-command, Commander Zilith, approaching with a data crystal in hand. "We've detected signs of technological advancement from the third planet in this uncharted solar system." Vexus accepted the crystal, inserting it into her neural port. Immediately, information flooded her enhanced mind. Images of a small blue planet teeming with life, primitive spacecraft orbiting the world, radio signals emanating outward. "Humans," she said, the word unfamiliar on her tongue. "They've barely left their atmosphere." "How quaint." "They appear to be developing rapidly," Zilith noted. "Our projections suggest they could achieve interstellar travel within the next century." Vexus laughed, a sound like crystals chiming. "Then we shall introduce ourselves before they become a nuisance. Prepare a standardized first contact protocol. Let's see if they're worth incorporating into the Empire." The Silurian scout ships arrived in Earth's orbit on a Tuesday morning. Their crystalline structures reflected the sun's light, creating prismatic displays across the sky that were visible even in daylight. Governments worldwide scrambled to respond, but the Silurians had already broadcast their message on all frequencies, in perfect English and every major language on Earth. "People of Earth, we are the Silurian Empire, masters of 17 star systems. We have been observing your development and find your species worthy of notice. Your planet contains resources valuable to our continued expansion. You have 2 Earth rotations to decide. Join the Empire as a protectorate state or face immediate conquest." In the United Nations Emergency Council, representatives argued frantically. Most advocated surrender. The alien technology was clearly centuries beyond Earth's capabilities. Military leaders presented simulations showing that even with every nuclear weapon on the planet, humans couldn't hope to defeat the Silurian ships. In a secure bunker beneath Washington, D.C., General Maya Rodriguez paced the length of the war room. At 45, she'd risen through military ranks based on her strategic brilliance and unconventional thinking. Now she was Earth's best hope for survival. "So they're laughing at us," she said, reviewing the intercepted communications from the Silurian fleet. Their internal messages, decrypted by the best hackers on Earth, revealed a disturbing arrogance. The aliens considered humans barely more evolved than primates, amusing in their attempts at spaceflight, but ultimately insignificant. "They're not wrong about the technology gap," said Dr. Eli Chen, head of the Advanced Weapons Division. "Their ships use energy systems we can barely comprehend. Our conventional weapons would be like throwing stones at a tank." Rodriguez smiled grimly. "But that's just it. They think we only have conventional weapons." She activated a holographic display, showing a strange device that resembled a satellite dish combined with a particle accelerator. "Project Prometheus. Something we've been developing since we detected their approach 6 months ago." "You knew they were coming?" asked Admiral James Okonkwo, his eyes widening. "We detected their surveillance drones," Rodriguez explained. "They thought they were being subtle, but our new quantum detection systems picked them up. We've been preparing ever since." "What does Prometheus do exactly?" asked Dr. Chen, examining the hologram with newfound interest. "It doesn't attack their ships directly," Rodriguez said. It attacks their communications network. We can't match their firepower, but we might be able to blind them, confuse them, make them underestimate us even more than they already do. The next day, as the Xilorian ultimatum ticked down, Earth's response came not in words but in action. 5 seemingly primitive human spacecraft launched from different points around the globe, heading directly toward the Xilorian fleet. On the bridge of the inevitable Dominion, High Admiral Vexus watched the approaching vessels with amusement. "They're sending their primitive ships to attack us," she asked incredulously. "Scan those vessels. What weapons do they carry?" Commander Zilith conducted the scan, his expression puzzled. They appeared to be armed with chemical rockets and basic projectile weapons, nothing that could penetrate even our outermost shields. Vexus laughed again, the sound echoing across the bridge. "Let them approach. Let's show them the futility of resistance." As the human ships neared, the Xilorian fleet arranged itself in an attack formation. It was unnecessary. A single battlecruiser could destroy all 5 human ships with minimal effort, but Vexus wanted to make a statement. The display of Xilorian might would demoralize the humans, making the subsequent conquest easier. "Activate tertiary defense systems," she ordered, deliberately using the lowest level of their weapons. "Target their propulsion systems. I want those ships disabled, not destroyed. Let them drift helplessly. Then we'll bring their crew aboard to explain the terms of surrender." The Xilorian weapons officers complied, targeting the approaching Earth vessels with precision energy beams. But something unexpected happened. The beams seemed to pass straight through the human ships without effect. "Weapons malfunction," Vexus demanded. "No, High Admiral," replied the confused officer. "The weapons fired correctly, but the targets don't appear to be substantive." Suddenly, the human ships flickered and vanished from view. Holograms, Vexus realized too late. They're decoys. At that moment, alarms blared across the Xilorian fleet. Communication systems failed, navigation computers went offline, and ship-to-ship coordination collapsed. The mighty Xilorian armada, for the first time in centuries, found itself in disarray. Meanwhile, on Earth, General Rodriguez watched the chaos unfold via satellite imagery. "Project Prometheus is working," she said. "Their communications network is compromised. Now for Phase 2. Across the planet, hidden missile silos opened, not containing nuclear warheads, but something far more sophisticated, quantum entanglement disruptors designed to interfere with the very fabric of the Xilorians' advanced technology." As the missiles launched toward the confused alien fleet, Rodriguez spoke quietly, as if addressing the Xilorian High Admiral directly. "You laughed at our ships. Let's see if you're still laughing when you can't see us coming." Laughter turns to fear. High Admiral Vexus had never experienced defeat. In 3 centuries of military service to the Xilorian Empire, she had subjugated 12 worlds and negotiated the surrender of 5 more. The concept of losing to a primitive species like humans was inconceivable, yet here she was, watching her magnificent fleet fall into chaos. "Restore communications," she demanded, her bioluminescent patterns pulsing with agitation. "Recalibrate the quantum network." "We're trying, High Admiral," Commander Zilith responded, his own lights dimmed with stress. "But the human attack has affected our systems at a fundamental level. They've somehow interfered with the quantum entanglement processes that enable our faster-than-light communications." Vexus stared at the view screen, watching as the human missiles approached her disorganized fleet. Each Xilorian ship now operated independently, unable to coordinate with the others. The precision that made the Imperial fleet so formidable had vanished. "How?" she whispered. "How could they possess such technology? Our intelligence indicated they were centuries behind us." On Earth, General Rodriguez directed the attack from her command center. Surrounding her, dozens of military personnel coordinated the global defense effort, their faces illuminated by the blue glow of monitor screens. "They're vulnerable," she announced. "Without their communication network, they can't coordinate. Each ship is now fighting alone." But their individual ships are still far more powerful than anything we have, Admiral Okonkwo pointed out. Rodriguez nodded. True, but we don't need to destroy them all. We just need to make this invasion too costly for them to continue. She turned to her communications officer. Send the signal to deploy the Chimera drones. Across the planet, hidden underwater bases activated, releasing thousands of small unmanned vehicles. Unlike the decoy ships that had initially confused the Xilorians, these drones were very real and very deadly. Each carried a payload designed by Dr. Chen's team, quantum disruptors that could temporarily disable the Xilorians' energy shields. In space, the Xilorian ships detected the approaching drones too late. Their sensors, designed to track large spacecraft or energy weapons, had difficulty identifying the small, stealthy Earth vehicles. Unknown objects approaching, reported a Xilorian sensor officer aboard the Inevitable Dominion. They appear to be automated weapons platforms. Vexus frowned. Destroy them. The Xilorian battlecruisers fired their energy weapons, vaporizing dozens of drones. But for each one destroyed, 10 more slipped through their defenses. The drones attached themselves to the crystalline hulls of the alien ships and activated their disruptors. One by one, Xilorian vessels lost power. Not permanently, their advanced systems would eventually recover, but long enough to render them temporarily helpless. Aboard the Inevitable Dominion, Vexus watched in disbelief as her fleet's status indicators turned from green to red. Impossible, she muttered. They're using quantum technology. But how? Their civilization is barely 1,000 years old. Commander Zilith approached, his expression grave. High Admiral, we've managed to capture one of their communication signals. I think you should hear this. He activated a holographic display. The face of General Rodriguez appeared, addressing not the Xilorians but her own forces. Remember, people, we only need to hold them off until the FTL interceptors are ready. Dr. Sharma's team estimates another 6 hours until deployment. Then we'll show the Xilorians that humanity isn't as primitive as they thought. The recording ended, leaving Vexus in stunned silence. FTL interceptors, she finally said. They're developing faster than light technology. It appears so, Zilith confirmed. And based on our analysis of their quantum disruptors, they've made advancements that took our civilization centuries to develop. Vexus paced the bridge, her mind racing. The Empire had conquered countless worlds, but always following the same pattern. Identify technologically emerging species, overwhelm them with superior firepower, and force submission before they could develop defenses. But humans had somehow accelerated their development, creating weapons specifically designed to counter Xilorian technology. They knew we were coming, she realized. Somehow, they detected our surveillance drones and prepared accordingly. As if confirming her suspicions, the main communication screen activated. General Rodriguez's face appeared, now addressing the Xilorians directly. High Admiral Vexus, she said, pronouncing the alien name with perfect accuracy. By now you've realized that humanity isn't as helpless as your intelligence suggested. We've been aware of your observation for months, and have prepared accordingly. Vexus straightened, maintaining her imperial dignity despite the situation. You've caught us by surprise, human. An impressive feat, but do not mistake temporary advantage for victory. The Empire spans 17 systems. What you face is merely our vanguard. Rodriguez smiled. We're counting on that, actually. You see, we don't want to destroy your ships. We want you to return to your empire with a message. Earth is not a viable target for conquest. The cost would far exceed any benefit. To emphasize her point, the view screen split to show a massive orbital platform emerging from behind Earth's moon, a platform that hadn't been there when the Xilorians arrived. This is our FTL interceptor array, Rodriguez explained. It can detect and disrupt any faster-than-light approach to our solar system within a radius of 50 light-years. Any future invasion force would be stranded in normal space, vulnerable to the same attacks that disabled your fleet today. It was a bluff. The platform was mostly for show, its capabilities vastly exaggerated. But the Xilorians had no way of knowing that. All they knew was that humans had already demonstrated technology they shouldn't possess. Vexus considered her options. Her fleet was temporarily disabled. Even if they recovered and launched a full attack, the humans had proven themselves far more dangerous than anticipated. The conquest would still succeed eventually. The Empire's resources were vast, but the cost would be substantial. "You've given me much to consider, General Rodriguez," she finally said. "Perhaps there is another path forward besides conquest or submission." 24 hours later, the Xilorian fleet departed Earth's orbit. They hadn't surrendered. The Empire never surrendered. But they had agreed to a diplomatic solution. Earth would remain independent, recognized as a sovereign power rather than a subject world. In exchange, humans would share some of their unique technological innovations, carefully selected ones that wouldn't give away their greatest advantages. As the inevitable Dominion entered faster than light travel, Vexus stood alone in her private chamber, reflecting on the unprecedented outcome. "They turned our laughter into respect," she said to the empty room. "Perhaps that is why they advanced so quickly, because they had to prove themselves worthy of being taken seriously." She activated a communication channel to the imperial capital. The Emperor would not be pleased with the outcome, but even he would have to acknowledge the strategic wisdom of her decision. The humans had earned a rare privilege, the right to be treated as equals by the Xilorian Empire. As the crystalline ships vanished from Earth's skies, General Rodriguez allowed herself a moment of relief. The bluff had worked. Humanity had bought itself time. Time to develop the technologies they had pretended to already possess. Time to prepare for the possibility that the Xilorians might someday return with greater forces. "They laughed at our ships," she said to Dr. Chen as they watched the alien fleet depart. "But I don't think they're laughing anymore." Chen nodded. "They'll be back, though. If not them, then someone else. And we'll be ready," Rodriguez replied. "Because now we know what's out there. And we know we can stand our ground." The stars seemed different that night as people across Earth looked up at the sky. The universe had become both more dangerous and more full of possibility. Humanity had faced its first interstellar challenge and emerged not just surviving, but respected. The Empire had laughed at human ships, but in the end, it was humanity that had the last laugh.